All right. Running a little bit behind, and I've got a lot to do, so I'm going to get started with this. Okay, so and I can show. So this was the picture that they brought in, and I don't know if you can see that this is like a very low res. I mean, you might think that the camera isn't focused, or there's just no detail in that picture. So I spent a little bit of extra time and did a better pencil sketch. And this is another New Approach. I'm not sponsored by New Approach, but that's where we send all of our people to for training. So this is another DVD that New Approach puts out. Counter sketching jewelry with Remy Brotenier. So I have these, and I haven't watched it in a long time. I should probably go back and rewatch it and but I'm trying to do like little pencil sketches often enough that I don't draw. And I'm trying to do pencil sketches often enough that my drawing gets a little bit better. But I sent this to him and I said, hey, this picture looks like everything is in a straight line across here. I think it'll look better, it'll lay better if we move these stones up to the top third. And then I need to figure out what size hollow bead to use so that the chain that she has can pass through and attach to a jump ring that will all be hidden by the metal bead. So that's kind of the setup for this job. Now this is the opposite emerald from the last one, but I'm doing them together because these are both going to be 18 karat jobs. So if nobody in the shop wants to touch this, well, I'll be setting this one as well. It is just incredibly fractured. I don't know if that's coming through, but it is an incredibly fractured stone. Very, very scary. This is a set at the customer's risk, and we explained to her that it probably, we hope it survives. There's a good chance that it won't. So that is the setup. Let's turn the webcam off and go into the CAD. Hey, Inaz. Okay. And Inaz, just let me know that the stream is doing okay. So we can move this out of the way, somewhere over there where it's not going to interfere. And I'm going to put that on layer 0. And I don't need this is my 10 o'clock, 2 o'clock that I use in rings to let me know if my stones are going, too far down the shank. We don't need that. So we're going to lock this. Now this stone is freshly scanned in. What I do for scanned stones is to scale them by 1%. So let's go ahead and do that. Just do a 1% scale. And then I'm going to put on here that it is a emerald cut, emerald scaled 1.01. That way, later, I don't have to remember, did I scale that? Yes, I did. And then we will throw this onto gems layer. I'm just going to put it on cutter because it's green and lock it so we don't touch it from here on out. And then let's go about tracing the stone. So first thing I do is I see how symmetric the dog ears are. And that is pretty good. So then I'll do a just eyeball here, and let's move all of this up above the stone so I can see it. Actually, I want to stay in shaded. Did I center the stone? I forgot to check that. Is the stone centered? Position 0, 0, 0, 0. Okay. All right, so let's expand this just a little bit. And we've got a bit of a gap there. So let's rotate the stone. Kind of split that difference. Move it back to 0. Digging it a little bit this way. We've got a gap there. All right, so we are going to take and close in that gap. So that dog ear looks okay. Let's ungroup those and turn off history for a second so we can break this. And I'm taking a lot more care than I would any other stone to trace this, because I don't want to have to do this taking the emerald in and out, trying to, I wanted to go in without any effort, because that'll give me the best chance of setting this without breaking it. And I'm seeing this facet junction is angled a little bit. So let's look at it in a perspective view and just see what this angle looks like. So it's not too bad, but it does go knife edge to fat. I'm not sure how I want to deal with that. Okay, so we can just curve boolean this all together. Curve boolean, and not all regions, and we want to delete the input, all of it. And there is our rail for the stone. And I want to make that at the bottom. Do I have the stone angled? Rotate off of 0. Should have done this before I did my curve boolean. And then we can look at the back. That was the front, this is the back. Back looks good. We want it there. Left. Okay, so we've got a little bit of an angle here, so let's go right and see if it's the same. Not as much. So let's just rotate it. And let's rotate it from this midpoint. And now look at it from the right. And I really get annoyed doing this, but you have to do it for scans if you want it to 0, 0, 0. Let's bring this up above again and make sure that those tweaks points on. Okay, so that is a good rail for our curve. Now let's move that back to just below the girdle, and then we'll make a copy of it just above the girdle. Okay, and then we need another one there. Let's look at that from the, this is the front, let's look at it from the back. Looks nice. Left, looks nice. Right, looks nice. Okay, so that is going to capture our girdle. So our bezel needs to be just above that. So I'm going to bring in my bezel curve, and now I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to do this. I had an idea a minute ago. Bezel loft, bezel sweep, bezel wire. Import file. Okay. So let's move this guy over here and take a look at it. So this is the new approach way of making a bezel. Your girdle is captured within this range, and then when you hammer on it from this angle, you're going to change. It's going to deform this way, and that will lock in the stone. So all you need is, this is above the girdle. It will bulge just a little bit. All right. And then your entire stone is visible except for, you know, a micron size bulge here. If the seat is perfect and you have this, you know, micron size bulge over the girdle, the stone is locked in place, and you get this nice flat to use as a bright cut. So I'm going to undo all of that, and we need to get this in place on here. So I think what I'm going to do is put a line that's kind of between these two angles. So how do I find between those two angles? There's a way to do this, and I don't remember. So you might think that you don't need to, you know, you've been doing this long enough, you don't need to go in here, but you do. I use it all the time. Oh, snaps. And there is, let's see, object O snaps. Midpoint, perpendicular. So I want perpendicular, the average perpendicular between two curves. Along No. Along parallel, no. Between, if I had 2 points, and I should probably do that. Snap from a specified base, perpendicular from. So that would be good. If I could have, if that didn't just change immediately, if it was a little bit rounded, I could do a perpendicular from. Doesn't look like I'm going to find one that I want. So we can make one. So what I can do is put points down and move this along this angle by like 0.1, and then do the same thing along this angle, 0.1, and now I can say align and then do along. Start a tracking line is here, and then between here and there. That gives me, you know, my average, let's see what happens if I just eyeball it. See, I want to go kind of between those two. All right, and then we'll see how far off I am. So let's put a point there, and it needs to go that way, 0.1, point there. That way, 0.1, and let's do a line again. Along from here, between those two. So I was off by a little bit with my eyeball line, which is going to matter. It'll become apparent why this matters in a minute. God, there's got to be a easier way of doing this. What about an arc? If I do an arc from there to there, I've got, we can turn the stone off. I don't need to see that right now. And I really don't like that green. It's too bright. Let's make it a dark green. That's easier to see. All right, so doing an arc, I can do a line, find the midpoint, turn off perpendicular for a second because it just wants midpoint. Hit tab for the shortcut for, that should be the same as what I was doing before. Go this way. And I can alt tap and go 0.1 so I don't have to draw the point again. And then do a line along midpoint between there and there. Okay, so that, one of these two methods is wrong. Three, 1, 5, 3, 1, 5. That is the midpoint. Let's split this. Split by point. Grab the midpoint. Length 3, 7, 3, 7. So that was the midpoint. So why was this line? Now it is tracking. It is slightly different, but it is tracking. And I think the arc is going to be quicker because I don't have to do all these points. So let's do that. Arc, there to there. And it's about to become apparent why I didn't hit it. Why I need these lines to be the average in just a second. Okay, so I want this to extend out so I have plenty enough space for what comes next. And then I'm going to extrude this. And then I want to say orient with 2 points, copy, scale no. So here to the midpoint. And we're going here to the midpoint. Here to the midpoint. Not intersection. We want mid. I didn't even click on the right one. Let's grab all these and turn their points on so we can visually see where the midpoint is, and try that again. There. I split that one, so that's the end point, not the midpoint anymore. Midpoint. Midpoint. Smart Track is getting in my way, so I'll turn that off. I almost never turn off Smart Track, but this one is getting in my way. Okay, so what these are going to be is projection targets for my bezel shape. And I'm going to create a layer under layout that's going to be called bezel projection targets. And I didn't get it into layout. And we're going to make these dark gray. And then set layer, and put those on. Okay. All that is trash and can go. These need to go onto, I have a layer in gems for rails. Those need to go on rails, and then I can, and I'll just start locking the whole gems layer because I don't want to touch my rails either now. Okay, so let's take this bezel wire and move it into position. Okay, so this is made for melee diamonds, but we are going to adjust it because we want that wall to be able to capture the whole girdle. And it's not going to have doesn't have a clean girdle, so it's not going to be as clean of a bezel as when we do this with a diamond, but it will be close enough. And I'm also going to be using this stone as the cutter. So I want to I want to just make this where the whole thing has to be cut out. So instead of trying to, match, Usually I would make it like this, and then the setter would cut away this little bit of material to do the seat. But I want to have the gem be the cutter, so it doesn't matter what angle. I just want to capture the whole thing. Now our wall thickness, now I want my smart track back on. I want my perpendicular intersection. I don't use center point that often. It usually just gets in the way. So that's why I have vertex and center, because those I leave off, along with between and along. Tab will get you there most of the time, but sometimes you actually need to define the along line. So that's back where it should be. What was I doing? Oh, measuring. So I'm going to tab, go along there, wall thickness of 0.386. I want this as thin as possible. It's a pendant. It's not going to get anywhere. I want it to be as thin as possible. So we can scale down this. And let's put in a guide point here. I want it to be no more than 0.3. Quarter millimeter feels a little aggressive. Let's just do 0.3. All right, and finish this out. Let's see. I don't care what this angle is. So let's say continue curve. But I do want this to extend past, so I have a shelf. What is this line? Oh, that's trash now. And then we can do continue curve from this side. And we need to be below the bottom of the stone. And I don't need this wall to be very thick either. That guide can go away. Delete. Okay, so when you subtract the stone from that, that looks good. All right, let's mirror that over to the other side. And then my mirror command has a group. It mirrors it and then selects it and groups it. So I'm going to have to Control Shift sub-object select just the curve. And let's do an orient again. And for this, I just want to snap the rail and perpendicular. And then I'm going to come up here, snap the rail, and go perpendicular. Let's make sure that is lock no and X. Let's make sure it's on the flat part of the X. So same thing, it looks good from this side, so I don't need to tweak it. We can mirror that onto the bottom. And here's where those projects are going to come into play. So that was my main project. It still has history because it was attached to a curve, and I just need to make sure that this is big enough to cover up this whole curve. And it's big enough, but it's not in the right place. So I want to move this along this line until it covers the whole curve. Okay. So now this and this should encapsulate that curve. It does. So I can take this curve and say project. Oh, and I see a problem. Project loose onto these two. And now I've got it, but it's not matching up with this corner because project goes in a straight line. Oh, rats. See, if you look at this curve, it's extended. It's wider than this one. Well, not wider, but and that's a bug in project loose where it's putting it all out as different curves. It's not wider, but let me lock history no, join this up, and then do area on it. So the area is 9.28. We do the area on this one. Oops, just this one. And it's 8.5. So the area, the cross section is wider, but when you loft all of these together in a straight line, I'll take this one. I guess I shouldn't have grouped all these together, and do project loose onto these two. When you loft all of these together, even though this is longer in here because this made it elongate from the top. I gotta join them up. Select new, join, ungroup all of this because that's getting in the way. You know, when I loft this, and we do straight sections. Oh, I messed up my joint. Try that again. Loft. Project loose. Shouldn't change the curve because it's loose, but you see it, the seams are all different now. So I'm going to go to automatic instead of the natural. Do straight sections. And now you can see that. Turn the stone off. My layers are out of order again. Layout, gems, cutters, geo. When you turn that off, you can see that you've got, it looks like the same thickness all the way around. And that was where what the project did. But the problem with project is it goes in a straight line and this stone is not straight. So it's not hitting these corners where they should be. Right? Like this projection target and this projection target are not in a straight line. So that's not going to work. Crap. I got a lot to do today. I can't afford to piddle on these. That's the right shape, right cross-section thickness. Just not meeting this point where it should be. What is the angle on this? I don't have a thing for that. So angle this to this. Oh, that's not how angle works. Got to draw two lines. 112, 111, 112. 112. So it's pretty much 112. I think I'll have a better shot of doing this. I'm going to undo all of my projections. Oops. Okay, I want that. I'm pretty sure I want that. And now I just need to take, let's go ahead and ungroup this. And let's fix all this that I just fixed. Let's do it again. Geo goes below cutters. We got gems, cutters, geo. And that bezel wire came in on bezel 2, so let's make a new layer for the bezel. And I like my bezel color to be orange. That's not orange. Okay. And all of these guys are going to go onto control. This layer can get deleted. This goes under geometry. I don't need my standard ring sprue in this model. Get rid of that. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is take this and this. I'm going to copy them up. I want to put this midpoint onto that point. That'll be important in a second. So I'm going to move from the midpoint along that line to that end. And now the rest of them, the midpoints should be over, and it's not. Midpoint needs to be on that point. I'm going to fix that in a minute. Okay, so we're going to take this and this, and we're going to copy it, paste it, and move that up here. That's this window. Okay. So I'm going to draw a line off of this midpoint. And I'm going to move this right to there. It's still being covered by that surface. Okay. Let's see what just project does. Project loose is changing the curve, but since how, yeah, that changed it a lot. We can do it by hand. Let's move that from the midpoint along this line to X. And then what we can do is shear this off the midpoint to there. And now we've got the curve without changing the point structure. Okay. So it is not a projection base, it is a flow. It's a flow target. And I'm kind of pedantic with everything I do, but with this, I'm going to open this up a year from now and try and figure out how the hell I did this thing. And the only way I'm going to do it is if I name things correctly and try and use the same kind of order and structure. So when I look at something that I have no memory of doing, I can figure out how I did it. So we're going to take this and flow rigid from here to there, there 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 to there, Okay. Now that I've done that, I'm sure I can break history on these other ones because I want to make sure that that midpoint is on my corner here. So lock history, no, move from mid there. That is on, that is on, that is on. So that one must have been a misclick. I must have done that one before I turned off Smart Track, and Smart Track picked up on something and changed it before. Smart Track must have picked it up on something and moved that point because the rest of them were where they were supposed to be. So I'm going to turn off my targets. That can hide. So now we are ready to loft, and I'm going to start in the top and go all the way around, clicking about in the same position on each curve. Not that it should matter because we're not using automatic, we're using natural for the seams. And now because the curves didn't change, they all have the same seam position. Tell it okay. We want this to be a closed loft with straight sections. Okay. And we have a bezel. The entire stone, when it cuts the seat, will have a little flat area that I like to have. And unlock the gems here. That is going to go and touch the edge. I'm not sure what to do about, because when I subtract this stone from here, it's going to make an undercut in that bezel wall. I think I will just fix that in 3D coat rather than try and, oh, you know what, I know. Well, there's two things I can do. One is change the bezel profile like it was originally. Let's look at how that would look. And I wish this was linked to that, but oh well. So I can take and move this to kind of match. And then the one that I just hid. Oh, you know what? Unhide that one. I can take this parent and this, turn the points on. If I grab both points at the same time and move down, okay, I think I'm going to like that better. It's still enough for the stone to cut away. Did I not grab the parent? Select children. Select children. It did that side. I want to set that to be the same Z as this one. There. Okay. And so what I should really do is take this curve, and that curve. That is those are my control curves, right? So they should already be on control, and then I'm going to hide them. Take these other curves and put those onto the curves layer. So I know not to edit those when I come back in a year and don't know what this is. And I'm going to set that onto the surf layer. And now turn off the control, lock the surf. Well, lock that, and now that bezel is done. Okay. Now we need to do the round bezels. So I'm going to go from, let's say, that edge to there. And I'm going to say divide. We want to divide it into thirds, so that's 3 sections. And then I'm going to snap, we can just snap a guideline. Okay, so now we've got a guideline for where our rounds are going to be. So the rounds for this job, 6.9s. I'm going to go ahead and throw in another stone, and this I'll just use the bezel set version, 6.9. And we want it to be on this tracking line that I set up. I can delete that. So now it'll be in the top third of that. And I need to bring in the original bezel wire again. Okay, so we can just bring that over to here and set it on the girdle. This is a bigger stone than the one this melee was set up for. So let's just raise that up a little bit. And now I don't want it to go all the way to the top. I don't want it to go all the way to the bottom. So how should we position this? We need it to kind of touch. Let's do a step down, but still enough where we can get a tool in there on this corner and wide enough where it will attach. Well, wide enough to attach is easy. We can bring this out and then just curve that out a little bit more. Yeah, just make it fat enough to touch the wall. All right, let's see how this looks. Let's put that on our line and sweep one. So that curve needs to go onto, so I got that bezel layer, but I'm going to make a new set of layers for these. And it'll be round bezel. And we'll change this layer. That curve, we can go off of bezel 2 onto round bezel control. Delete that layer. And bezel can become emerald cut bezel. And then we'll change this layer color to orange is taken. Green I use for cutters usually. Let's go with purple. That will go onto the SERPs layer. Now for the bottom of this, so they paid for 14 karat yellow. I am switching this to 18 yellow because of this. It's a pendant. It's not going to get a lot of wear, so I kind of want to go thin on the wall thickness here. So let's do continue curve. Continue curve. And let's grab that curve. And I only need to go down to like here. All right, so what's this wall thickness? 6/10. We can go thinner than that. Now what's the wall thickness? 5/10 sounds reasonable. All right, that gives us a shelf for our stone. I'm also thinking about where the center of mass is going to be, so that when the chain hooks up to it, it's, you know, I don't want the center of mass to, well, don't much have a choice. This emerald is going to, you know, skew everything. That emerald center of mass is probably somewhere right in here, which is going to be the top of this. You've got this metal rim behind it, but that's cut away. Maybe I should bring this down just a little bit, because its center of mass is going to be somewhere right in here, which will be in line with this center of mass. And this would be a good time to put in my registration mark for the jump ring. So I like to do this just to kind of show my guys where I think the jump ring should go and give them a better surface to solder against. So I pipe this. Jump ring's probably going to be 0.7 of a millimeter thick. Set the Y to here, and then rotate that to where I think the chain should attach, which is probably somewhere in this area. And this will just go into our cutters, and I don't need a whole setup in here. Jump ring, registration mark, and that can go onto there. Jump ring, registration mark. Both of those, the curve and the surface, can just go on one layer. All right, so that'll give them a little divot. So when they put the jump ring on there, they can have it at the right angle. You know, jump ring will just sit in that little slot. Mirror that around to the other side. All right. Another question is, do we want to move this up any? I said top third, but we're not married to top third. We can ungroup that. We can go a little bit higher. I don't want it to end up looking like Mickey Mouse. So maybe my first instinct of a third was right. You know, because if it gets up here, we don't want it to look like Mickey Mouse. So this rope chain, let's measure it. 2.8. So coming off of this jump ring is where it's going to be soldered. Pipe that 2.8. It's a pretty thick rope chain. All right, and we need to get a hollow bead Oh, that's not on. Let me look at my sizes that I can do a hollow bead from. So I'm just going to Stellar real quick to look at bead sizes. So in the lightweight bead, we have 7, 8, and 10, which we're probably maybe 6. Let's try 6. So off of there, and let's do diameter of 6. I think I want to move. Six is not bad. The hole is not going to be big enough, but we could drill that out. But on a lightweight bead, what is the biggest size of a heavyweight bead? Heavyweight bright bead, they do have a 6mm heavyweight. Okay. So I think 6mm is what I'm going to go with on, I need to write that down, order 6mm heavy bead. Order 6mm heavy bead. Stellar 1250 colon 759 38 colon S. Okay. And the heavyweight bead, we can drill that out so the rope can go in, and then we can slide this up, slide that up, attach it to the jump ring, put that back down, and it should hide all of that construction stuff. The chain can be gold, and the bead can be cyan. All right, here's the screenshot. This is what I'm saving in the archive. You know what? Let's go ahead and do the YouTube thumbnail too. Let's bring this so that bead is on top of that. Oh, and so I drew this 2.5 scale. So if you look at it, let's go ghosted for a second here. Why is that not to scale? I measured everything. That stone is too big and that emerald is too small. I'll have to go back and measure and see why it's not actually to scale. Let's double check our measurements. 6.9. This is 13.7, which we scaled 1%. So 13.7, 11, 17, 8.21. We're 9. Oh, the dop stick is going to mess with the height. So looking at it from, you got this stop stick on top. That'll screw with the height of it. I must have done some math wrong on this to scale. It's pretty close. It's pretty close, but not quite. So this will be our YouTube thumbnail. Job done. Let's get this into 3D coat. That goes on to Geo. This, all of our layout stuff, none of the layout stuff ever goes to 3D coat. So even though this is geometry, it's reference geometry. So I just do that for layout. Everything's closed. Whole model ready to go. Do I want to put a backing on this? No. It's going to add to the weight. That's deep enough where it's not going to, I think that'll wear well on its own. I don't think it needs a backing. No backing. To 3D coat we go. Export to 3D coat. And I should, good morning, Gem Garden. Let's get 3D coat open. Voxel sculpting. Reset axis, reset space, scale 2500. Import as child, apply. First time, yes, keep it. Go to fill. And we really just need to make sure this attach point has, you know, some place for metal to flow. And then these cutters are easy. Subtract from the round bezels. Okay, that's our registration marks for the jump rings. I feel like that will be the center of mass. Not sure, but I feel it. Merge the round bezel with the emerald cut bezel, and this we're going to copy and subtract from that in case we need to go back and tweak it anymore. And I think that's going to be really good. I think that'll work perfectly. Let's turn symmetry on. Turn symmetry on and get our fill brush. And let me get out the Wacom. Okay, we're going to come in here and just, I can't use X symmetry. I mean Y symmetry, just X. I don't want steady stroke because I'm going to make some short strokes that I want it to register. Now towards the bottom, I want it to be a little bit wider, and I want to go light to the top. Do the same thing on this side. Do a little bit heavier on the bottom and then lighten it up as we get to the top. Okay. And this, we just need to really gently, so we don't have any fins of investment get stuck in here. And if fill is being too aggressive, you shift to a very thin, smooth. If fill is adding too much material, you can just go to smooth and it won't be as, it won't build up as much. I wish I could say it doesn't build up at all. I'm very active with McNeil, letting them know like what we need changed. Not so much with 3D Coat. Like there are so many little features I wish I could ask for, and I just never put in the time to go explain why I think something that works great for everybody else should be changed. Okay, do I want to scrape any of this down? And I think the answer is no. I can take a razor blade and do that in the metal if I need to, you know, just get rid of this. But I don't want to change it from here. Like if this stone doesn't just fall in after I take a little burnisher or blade and knock this sharp edge off, if it doesn't just fall in, I have failed. I'm going back to the drawing board and we'll print it again. This is from where the scan, where I sprayed the spray on. I got a little overspray that made dots. Okay, that's done. So we'll change this over to surface mode. Oh, you know what? Before I do that, I like to just do a smooth all twice. Then switch over. Then go to decimate, and we're going to drop this to 90. 180 sounds right. Let's look at a wireframe. We've got big triangles on a flat area and small triangles on a round area. That is the correct amount of decimation. All right, so I'm going to hit be right back while I save this off. How did you guys feel about that model? Save this person's name here. Dot emerald cut emerald dot pendant dot stl. I also need to save the CAD model while I'm in here. Okay, now I can go back. Turn screen on. There we go. No comments on that model? It's pretty easy. I didn't know how I was going to make that bezel. I thought it was going to be projection targets, but I ended up having to do flow targets. Worked out to be about the same, just a different way of getting there. Yes. All right. Next job. I am going to I'm going to turn off the screen and run to the restroom and get the next job out here on the bench, and then I'll turn on the overhead screen. What are the side stones? CZs. They are CZs from a set of earrings she had. I think it's like there's sentimental value here, which is just as important to me as monetary value. She's paying for a handmade one of a kind pendant, so it must mean something to her, and I'm happy to. I don't really care what people put in stuff. It's just the pucker factor of setting that emerald is the only thing that I'm worried about. The fact that it doesn't cost as much as the other one doesn't really change my opinion of how it looks from a, craft point of view. All right, this one's bagged up and ready for casting. I'm going to turn off the screen and run to the restroom and get the next one out on the bench, and then we'll go over it before emeralds scare me too. That's why we have a 3D scan. We're using 18 karat with a 0.3 millimeter wall thickness. I am just going to breathe on the outside of this edge and fold it down and lock it in. That is all I'm doing to this thing. So it's less scary when that's all you have to do to it. Okay, so 10 minutes and I will be back. Okay, I am back. And I'm calling an audible because I'm starting to realize I'm not going to finish all of these jobs by the end of the day. Which means I'd finish them tomorrow morning and cast them tomorrow night. But I need to cast that first emerald ring today, or at least get the printer going today. So all the 18 karat jobs are done now. These 2 emeralds are my 18 karat jobs. Except I have an 18 karat white. This was in the counter. They want it, but they want it in 18 white instead of 14 white. So I basically just need to duplicate this. And I've not done my normal pre-CAD and figured everything out yet, so I will just do the pre-CAD real quick. We'll make this, and that way we can get those guys printing. Can you guys hear me? I'm not talking in the mic. There, now the mic's over here. So I'll just do the pre-CAD live for this. Usually I have a pile of stones that I'm measuring. That's what this little grid is for, as I measure them and put them there. I've got the mid-tutorials with the foot pedal. So I just put them there, hit the button, and then in Excel, it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, and then the size gets put in on the other. But we've got to measure like this, so I'm going to grab the scope. And just measure them underneath the scope. So what I do is I open up my, I have a CAD template in Excel, well, LibreOffice. And then I'm going to say rounds. This has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we're going to have, I need to measure the first 5. I don't know what the carat weight is going to be. So that's on position 1. So I'm going to go into the scope with the calipers and just try and get as close as I can here to what the actual size is. First stone. That's the second. Third. Fourth. Fifth. Okay. So we are going from a 3. Let's see. That third one, is it a 3030 32? Let's double check. I'm gonna run it again just to be sure. Because it looks like they all paper except the 4 in the middle. top thickness 5.2, bottom thickness 3.6, top height 3.4, bottom thickness 1.3, and how thick are these walls? And the tag on this piece says 1.1 carat weight. So let me get my diamond worksheet out. So if it's 1.1 carat, let's see, if I do a 3 millimeter, where did I get the cool calipers? They're called Mitutoyos, and there's two versions of this 6-inch. One of them takes a foot pedal. So there's this. You can also push this button, or there's a little thing that runs to a foot pedal. But these are Mitutoyos. Everybody in the shop has a pair, but I'm the only one with a foot pedal because I don't want to move from this bench over to the computer, which is over that way. I just want to work over here, and then I come over here to Excel and change what I'm typing into. Forget which ones are which. I don't want to, constantly go back and forth. So I've got a foot pedal. It eliminates like just typos. Same thing with the scale. The scale has a print button, which there's a little dongle for it too. That goes to the computer. So I can just hit print, and that way I'm not ever fat fingering something into the keyboard. Okay. So let's see, if we have a 2 3s, 2 3 1s, 2 3 2s, 6, 8, 10. Our total carat weight is 1.3. If we do 4 3s, 0 3 1s, 2 3 2s, and 4 3 3s, that gets this 1.2 carats. I'm not sure how this is a 1.1 carat unless I oversized everything. Maybe it should be 4 2 2 4. Two. There's a 1.1 carat. I think this is what it was supposed to be, and just measuring through the scope. Yes, one thing that we believe in around here is training and tools. So everybody has a good pair of calipers instead of the crappy ones. And Mitutoyo is great because it is rated to be around machinist cutting fluid. So people that work on CNCs, a lot of times when they're cutting metal, there's machining fluid on the parts that they're measuring, and this is rated to withstand not submersion, but just being around fluid. So right now I close my jaws and it says 0.01. Now, on a cheap pair of calipers, you would think, oh, I need to calibrate those. On Mitutoyos, I know they're calibrated, but I have something on the face of my calipers. So when I clean it, now it goes to 0. Now when I close it, it goes to 0. There was something on the face of my caliper that was stopping it from going to 0, 0, 0. You can always just trust them. You can turn it off and turn it on in the middle over here, and it's gonna give you an accurate measurement. You can also leave it on. They don't care if you can leave this on, and you'll change the battery every 3 years. You can turn it off. You're going to change the battery every 3 years. The battery goes dead before the battery goes bad before this thing uses all the juice in it. Still got something on my face. Must be something sticky. There we go. Yeah, Mitutoyos are great. This is their only, like, it doesn't have as full range as this one, and you don't have the little, so I keep these around in case I need to, you know, go on the inside of a ring and measure a stone while it's set. But usually everything I get is already, just feel how grimy this is, and then how smooth this thing is. Like, this is just a piece of crap. But because of that, I need it. They don't make a version of this that works as good. But I do like the little push anvil, so I can drop stones in. And then I have the Mitutoyo optical comparator, so I can measure shapes and angles. If I didn't scan that emerald, I would have put it under here to measure the angle of the dog ear, but because I had the scan, I didn't need to use this. Okay, so I think I've figured out the stone sizes that we actually are going to use. 2 9s, do a 2 9, 2 9, 3 0, 3 1, 3 2. That gives us the carat weight that this label says it has. So, pad of paper. So finger size is unspecified. I know who took this job in. So they liked this one out of the counter. I will assume that it fit on their finger, and they said, I want this just in a... So it's probably an 8. The tags are in the way. I'm going to guess it's a size 8. Size 8, question mark. 18 white gold. 1.10 carats total weight. Total carat weight. TDW. What else? Need 10 stones, so 4 2.9s, 2 3.0s, 2 3.1s, 2 3.2s. So that's 10 stones. And I looked at the stones while they were under the scope. These what we call our A grade. They're the SI2 I1 VGs with a HI color. All right, now this lip thickness, we got that off of our calipers. That was, we got one side was 104, one side was 117. So I'm just going to make it 1.1. Our total thickness, that was 5.24. Tapering to 3.6 on the base. And I should probably scale these up, because we'll just say 5.4 and 3.7, because after polishing and whatnot, it'll get down to that. What else? On the circle side, this height, let's go the other way with it. That height was 3.42. This was mass manufactured because the bottom is 1.3, but we are going to leave that as 1.8. 1.8 is kind of my standard base thickness, and it is wide enough that I could go lower. We can take it down to 1.5 with that much thickness. 1.5, I just don't want to go down to 1.33. And then we've got our channel for the stones. There's a ring in the bottom that we need to put in there. There's a ring in the bottom of that. Okay, let's do the CAD. I'm gonna scan this into the job. New file. We can turn off the red cam now. Put this picture in somewhere up here. Okay. First things first, get the Wacom tablet out of the way. All right, finger rail, size 8, and we're going into gypsum. Take our base ring and scale that to size 8. We need to bring in a shank. Import file. Let's go ahead and set up our shank to the right. I don't want to remake this shank template. I do that every so often, and I'm ready to do it again. I don't know if you guys want me to do that. I don't have time to do it today. Never have time for things. Okay, so the base of the shank needs to be 3.7. It's 2 now. That's a difference of 1.7. So we want to say, go the other way, negative 1.7 divided by 2. And now that should be 3.7. Close enough. And then I want to kind of match the shape of I don't need to see junk. Let me look at this ring again. So it's kind of squared off, not a half round. So we will bring this up to the same Z as that. Okay, I broke something. So what I'm going to do is, I never use history purge for this reason. I accidentally broke history on something I didn't want to. So I'm going to undo back to where I just started seeing it. I'm going to turn off my junk. Grab these guys and say lock no. And I went the wrong way with it. Dope. So not a negative this time. 1.7 divided by 2. That curve is now 3.7 wide, 3.69. We said we were going to make it 1.5 millimeters tall. So I'm going to set the Z. I can just eyeball it. It's not crucial. I want to move this over so it just has a crisper top to it. And that is the bottom profile. That looks good. On wide rings, I always give them kind of a comfort fit, just because why would you ever do anything else? All right, the midpoint, I did not measure. Let's measure it. The midpoint is about 4.4. We'll end up adjusting this later. So right now it's 3.7, 4.4. Difference between that is 7. So 0.7 divided by 2. And that will make this 4.4. We also need to start increasing the height, because we're going to go to a height of the height goes to 3.42. So we can just eyeball this. That's 2, 3, 3.42 should be in there. And this, we need to get kind of the halfway point. So 1.5 to 3.4, that's 2. So we need to go about, we can just do 0.95 up. And now if I'm looking at this, it's not quite smooth. It's a little lumpy. We'll fix that in a minute. And then our top size, 5.4, and we are at 4.4. So I need to go 0.5. And this should be 5.4. Yes, that is our 5.4 to 3.7, 3.7, 5.4. This guy we are going to play with until this becomes smooth. It just looks a little flat in here, but I don't know. I don't know. How does it look from the left? Is it kind of straight? It's pretty straight. The middle can come out a little bit. So let's bump that a tenth in total. Bump it a tenth again. Yeah, I'm moving half of it and it moves the other side. So when I say a tenth, I actually tell it to move 500th. Let's go back. Okay, that looks like we got a nice side profile. The front looks pretty good. Maybe it's just my eyes. It looks good. I gotta keep going. I can't piddle. If it wasn't perfectly fine, when they hit it with sandpaper, it'll be a nice round shape. I need to quit being. I need to start worrying about things that matter, not wasting time on things that don't, which is a constant problem for me. That goes there. Now we need to do a centerline cutter and lay out the stones. So part of my shank template has this set of stone layouts. So let's go ahead and get the stones in here. I need, I'm just going to put a 1 millimeter in to set this up. And then I'm going to offset this 1 millimeter by 0.25. That's my standard stone spacing. And I'm going to group these, sub-object, select that, and put that onto my spacer layer and lock spacer. So now as I'm moving this, history will update. I did not have lock history on. Lock history. Okay, now history will update it. See that little stutter step? History's updating it, even though it's locked and I can't pick on it. Okay, so I need 5 stones. So copy 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 paste. Well, 4 paste plus the original. And then we're just going to grab one, and I'm going to align the. I'm going to sub-object select the gem and align the gumball to the gem, which the block insertion point is at the girdle. And now I can scale 3D. So the last stone on our list is a 3.2. Next, we need a 3.1. Next, we need, next, we need a 3.0. Then we need a 2.9 and a 2.9. Okay, and now I can sub-object select the stones and then go to distribute. Spacing 0.25, axis X, and then move those there to there. We need this to be, I think, 0.4 of a millimeter over the girdle for a channel set. And we are going to flow rigid, stretch yes, from this using a target surface. And if you're wondering where that target surface came from, because that's new in V7, that was one of my feature requests. I do spend a lot of time with Rhino people saying, hey, I need this feature. So this surface is inside out. That is unfortunate. But
maybe I can make the surface flip by doing this. I know how this template was made. I know it's a mirror across here, so if I just mirror to the other side, it should reverse the direction of all the curves, which will reverse the surface. And that is something that I should fix in the template file. It should come in with this surface right side out. See, this display mode shows me that's a back surface, that's a front surface. So before I did that flip, when it laid it out like that, I knew the surface was inverted because I said use the normal of the surface to lay these stones out. So that is something that I need to fix in that template file that I've never noticed before. Okay, so our stone spacing, they are very far apart right now. We are just going to drag this out until they tighten up. And we can just zoom in here and see this spacer line, and that's a 1/4 millimeter. We just want it to where it kisses the girdle of the neighboring stone, and now all of them will be. This is an advantage of flow curve versus flow surf. This is why I asked for this feature, because if I did this with flow surf, how you guys are probably used to doing it, if I did it with flow surf, you know, each of these would not be the same distance apart from each other. Now, I think I want to bury them a little bit deeper into this ring. I think let's go another 1/15 in. Now our girdles are too close together, so I'll just back this up a little bit. And that's fine. Okay. That's done. Now I need a centerline cutter. And this is where copy and paste history is a beautiful, beautiful thing. So I'm going to take and turn on everything for the shank, unhide all, and I want to grab this. Actually, let's just grab this and say, give me all your parents. That looks like I got everything. I don't want the base flow. So I'm going to copy this, hide this. I'm going to change the name of this shank to Shank X. And I'm going to paste this back in and change this layer to Shank Cutter. And recolor this to a green. Shank Cutter. I want this to be some sort of a green. And I'm going to move this into the, my layers are all messed up again. I got to figure that out. That's going to drive me nuts. Okay, so now we've got Shank Cutter, that all of that is on. All right, I can move this. I want to make sure that lock history is on. I'm going to move this -30 out to there. There's a mirror, so I have to keep this on there, but these are all flows, so I can move those any way I want. I want to move that 20 over. And then that's fine where it is. So the reason I'm doing this is the outside profile of my shank. Let's unhide the stuff I hid before. And for the shank, I can move no longer Shank X, and we can go back to being shank. I want to turn off the junk, control, lock the curves, lock the surface. And I don't need to see my shank profiles anymore. Okay, so now I can take and edit. I don't want to see my junk. I can take and edit this to be my centerline cutter. Okay, so that can go up Now I need a, what was it? A 1.1 millimeter wall thickness. So I'll just put a point here, say 1.1, and throw that onto 0. So that can be my reference line. So let's grab these guys and set the Y, yes, the Y to that. And then I want it to cut all the way through. So we'll bring that down. Oh. Set the Z to there. And I want to bring this down, I think, and bring this out. Okay, now what else do I want on this cutter? I kind of want it to come straight down over, I need a little shelf for the stones. Am I going to have enough control points for all this? I don't know if I'm going to have enough control points. I thought it would be a good idea to reuse this, but I'm not sure. So I don't have enough control points. I have 2 options. I can start over just using this, base as a template, which would be fine. Or I can edit symmetry by hand, which I hate editing symmetry by hand. What if I move this off the center line? It breaks symmetry. Supposed to be a fast one. Well, that didn't work. I'm just going to do it by hand. I can use the same structural layout of everything that I have. Oh, not the shank. The shank cutter. Let's see, how do I want this to go? That's really too bad. I wish there was a way to insert control points. If join copy was fixed, which is a feature request that has gotten 0 traction because I'm the only one that complains about it. If join copy was fixed, this would be much, much easier. I guess I shouldn't go dead silent and just stare at the screen longingly when I got the stream on. That's what I'm thinking. Fastest way to do this. You know what? I don't need any curvature to this. So this is in a straight line. So the fastest way to do this is going to be just to turn lock off and take the shank cutter and just trash the whole thing. All right. This line is garbage. That line's for sure garbage. I don't know which one of those is garbage, so I can't really do anything about it. Let's go over here, and I'm just going to take a polyline off the top here, go over to there, to there, to there, to there, and then back to the center. Now, I want to bury a 1/15 of this stone into the wall. So I'll move that over 0.15. I'll adjust this down to here. I'll make that vertical. You have a very defined skill set working in Rhino. Hard for many to help you on the feature request. Well, see, that's the thing. Like, if I got a feature request done, I could show you a shank template that was much easier than the shank template I'm building. I just can't show you that one because it doesn't exist yet. Like, I can see down the road of what I know what makes this hard for somebody else to come in and say, I'm going to do it the way he did it. It's because I'm having to go like all the way around what I want to do to get there, right? So my feature requests are, how do I make that long winding path that I go down to get to something? How do I make that a straighter line so more people can reuse it? Because my goal is to have everything I need in this library, so that when I need a cathedral shank, I just bring in a cathedral shank, and there's my cathedral shank, and it's editable. If I turn on the cathedral flow, if I turn that on and get my control, well, here I can control where the cathedral is and what angle it's coming in at, and I can adjust that blend. Well, I have to turn that on to adjust it, but I think it's under junk. No, it's under this junk. See, there should never be a need for a junk layer in Rhino. The junk layer is all the extra steps I'm going through to get what I want. Whereas if I got my feature request, there would never be a junk layer. Why do I make things just to never see them again? And that blend is miscategorized as junk because I needed to edit it. So this cathedral template needs work. Undo, undo, undo. There, gone. Now, just like, trust me that I know what I'm talking about. And if I say, hey, there's a really cool, easy workflow if we get this thing, then go, I want that, and back those form requests, because I have to go through like great lengths just to explain how something will eventually work to the McNeil people. Like, and they know just as much about they know just as much about Rhino as I do, but these are like private messages that I'm having with the developers to say, hey, here's how it needs to work. Here's how it is working. Like, look at all these extra steps it's doing. This is what it needs to do. 10 steps instead of 30. How can we do this? And their first question is usually, why do you want that? And then I have to go through the whole workflow to show them why it is that I want it. Like, and they've gotten to know me over the years because I'm a constant source of aggravation for them. Okay. So I need this to be like 1/10 over on every stone. So the way I was going to do it probably wouldn't have worked anyway. I'm just going to copy this onto each one of these, and that way I can tune them up individually. This one is the same size as the previous one, so if I copy that one, I'll get my history, so I only have to edit that once. Okay. Now I'm going to turn lock off, and I'm going to take this, I'm going to move it out to the edge, and then I'm going to move it in, -0.15. And I'm going to take this one and move it out to the edge and move it in, -0.15. Take this one, and it is on the edge, kind of, but we will make sure it's on the edge. And then move it in, -1.5. And then we need one more for down here where it starts. I don't know where that's going to be, but it's somewhere in there. And then we'll grab those and we will flow rigid, stretch, yes, from here. Oh, this is locked. Can I unlock it? Yes. You can unlock from here without canceling a command. You can't unlock from here without canceling it. And I right-clicked, throw that right-click onto another window. Target surface is this guy, and the curve is that one. So from here, I will do a loft a little bit differently than I normally do, in that I will do loft normal. Oh, and I don't have one up here. Oh, that is on the end. It shouldn't be on the end because there's 10 stones, and that is set up in a... God bless it. Okay. Lock. Yes. We need to move this from here. Now we need to move it from between these 2 points over to there. And then we need a copy of this. Copy is a right click. And we need to flow that. Oh, you know what? Delete that. I'm going to grab this and this, copy it, paste it. Lock is on. Set X to there. And now I don't have to reflow it. It's already there. All right. Copy and paste. I love it. Love copy and paste history. That, and we are going to go with a normal instead of loose. I generally do loose, but this time I'm going to do normal, so I keep that tolerance to 0.15. Not close to 0.15, but 0.15. Do normal, and then I can take this and mirror it. And we can measure this distance, and it should be 1.1, 1.2. So I measured with calipers from here to here, and I measured with calipers from there to there. I trust my outside measurement more. And if I go back to the actual, like, measurements that I took One was a 1.17, one was a 1.04, and it's 1.2. I think this is right. What I have is right. It'll look close enough in either way. Okay, so now let's set up a layer for this cutter. This is going to be a channel cutter. Let's throw that onto the channel cutter surface. We can grab these and put that on the control, and grab the children and put that onto the curves that make the surface, and change the color to something in the green family. We can go dark green and put that into our cutters tree. Now I don't need to see my control. There was no junk. Curves and surface, and lock that. Now, oh, I do need to see my control because just go ahead and delete junk because I don't have any junk. Points, turn lock on so I can keep whatever history that I already have, and bring that down until it goes through the bottom of the shank. I think that's good. That's sometimes I put a little triangle of metal right here, but because this is so thick, I think it's fine. I don't need that extra lip of metal. You know what? Make your setter happy. Let's do there to there to there to there. And orient to points. Copy, scale no. From there to there. There to there. There. All right, and I'll make a new layer and call it channel lip. This is just giving the setter a little extra metal to work with. This needs to go onto the control. Same thing, flow, rigid, base curve, target surface, target curve, and we'll do another loft normal. Normal, take and put that onto the surfaces layer, recolor that layer to blue, I think. That will give him a little bit of metal to hammer down once he opens that up to slide the stone in. That'll give him a little extra metal. Do we do it on both sides? Do we do it on one side? I would do it on one, but I think he kind of likes it when I give it to him on both sides, just in case. So we'll mirror this to the other side just to be safe. Not the mirror I was looking for. Okay. And then we just need to put the little ring. There's a little ring down in the base to keep the channel from collapsing. Measure distance from here to there. 5 point, what? From there to there. 1.5. We could take and flare this. Lock yes. That was 1.5. We really only need 1, so I could bump it to I don't, that's a little too much. All right, that's good. Now let's put in our donuts. So we need a donut underneath each stone. So I don't need to see that. Curves. Lock that and put it under geometry. Okay, and a little donut. There is a little donut tool. Do I want to do torus or tube? I think I want to do tube. So we need to come out to about there. And maybe like 0.8 of a millimeter thick. And that's going to need to be on the bottom of that. See, I'm never going to get these all. So I'm going to delete that. And let's turn off the gems so we can just see these rails. Can't edit the block because these are all the Z depth is going to be different for each one of these. I'm thinking, how do I want to do this? Should have done it on the first one. Why is this still on? Go away. Cutters channel, doot, doot, doot. I want to leave the surface on, lock that. Okay, so we want our donut to be, first thing we want to do is offset by a 15th. Yeah, I think I want to offset it by 15th. Okay, that'll be the outer wall of the donut. Then I want to do it again. Let's see, our donut should have like, let's do 0.8. No, that's too much. Let's do 0.5, 0.6, 0.5. Point 0.5. Yeah, 0.5. I think that'll be good. And then we want this and this. We want to extrude curve. This is not going to match the bottom of our finger. I shouldn't be building it here. I need to build it over here and flow. I should have built it off of these spacers. Let me build it off the spacer. Let me make a circle. Okay, so the spacer is 0.25. We're going to offset that 0.25. Then we're going to offset by 1/10. Then offset by 0.5. We can do 0.6. Now this and this extrude curve 0.6 and make sure we're going the right way with it. Okay, that's what I want. I'm going to copy that, paste it, and make sure lock is on and move that down to this quad. Paste it, and let me turn snappy dragging on, and I can just do this. Paste it to that quad, paste it to that quad. Now this outside curve that controls the first offset, we can scale 2D to there, scale 2D to there, scale 2D to there. All right, that's all my donuts. And I'm gonna grab the donuts and move them to here. So move from this guide rail to that guide rail. If I flow the geos to the shank, I can extrude them after. Well, let's try it. I'm gonna hide that. And I'm gonna grab this and this and copy it back. If you flow the geos onto the shank, you can extrude them after. So if I, well, But then I'd have to tune each one of them to get onto the base surface. So they each have a different Z distance. So I'd have to tune each one of them. And then would they, let's flow a regular flow, not rigid. From there, target surface, and then use that flow curve. And turn off all of our geo and our cutters. I'm gonna unlock history and get this down. I'm gonna turn off snappy dragging now. See, we're not gonna hit the surface at the right angle because this is constantly changing. I'd have to adjust the depth of each one of them. It'll be faster to go this way with it. So I'm going to take these guys and flow them onto the surface, and I should do some layer management before I get much farther. We'll just call it rings. Those are the surfaces. These guys are all construction curves. So that is going to go onto curves. These are all the controls, which are based off of the spacer. That's going to go onto control. Grab those surfaces and flow onto the shank, and let's turn off the geo and the cutters and take a look. Now they're too spaced out, which I expected. Let's turn the gems on. And what we can do is turn the points on for this and just stretch this out until we see these guys get underneath. Went too far with it. Okay, so now they are kind of there, but they're still squishy. So now I'm just going to take these guys, my controls, and I'm going to go over here and say transform individually, use a bounding box, transform objects individually, and I'm going to scale the X on them, so not uniform. I'm going to scale the X on them 10% and see what that looks like. We can go more, scale the X 10%. And now they overlap, but they kind of went too far with that. So let's change the scale precision. They're a little bit ovally. Does that make it better or worse? Okay, that should be fine. Let's look at our cutter to make sure. So it's just biting the edge of it. Most of the circle is able to be seen. And let's do, well, I'll do that after I save the file, which I'm ready to save. This is a done model as far as saving the file is concerned. So 1 second. I need to turn that off while I save this out as a file name. Save. Insert customer name here. And this is channel set 1.1 carat based off of stock number 120-00130. Okay, I can turn this back on now. All right, so now this is saved and I can start breaking history. The first thing I want to do is round off the corners of all of these. So I'm going to go to Fillet Edge and I'm going to select all these edges and say set all to 0.25. Let's see how that looks. That looks good. I need to turn lock children off, which it already is. Let's preview this, make sure that Rhino fillets worked. I think I'm going to set all to like 0.2. Okay. Do that and the flows will update. Then I need to mirror this to the other side. Undo group, make it a join. One closed poly surface. Let's do the channel cutter. Is it locked? Is that my problem? Cutters, channel cutter, unlock. Mirror it to the other side. Undo group, do a join. Cap that. Isolate it. And I also want to put a fillet on these edges. And I'm doing fillets that I know will work. I just don't want to have hard edges in the mounting where investment will break off. So yes, that's good. Now for these little lips, I bet I've got those locked. Channel lip, unlock that. Mirror that to the other side. Undo the group, do a join, cap, and let's see, this is what's going to 3D coat. I need to grab my rings and flow those over, or mirror those over. Select open surface, no open surfaces. To 3D coat we go. Get the Wacom here. All right, let's do new file. Don't save. Voxel sculpting. Import into voxel space. Reset access. Reset space 2500 on the scale. Import as a child is selected. Apply. Yes, keep the scale for the export and go into fill. So there was a little mesh error, it looks like, on my channel cutter. Yep. Which we just hit smooth all a couple of times, and then we can, oh, I want to put the channel lip onto the shank first. Merge with shank, and then do my cutter, subtract from shank. The little rings merge with, well, do I want to soften this edge first? Yes, I want to soften that edge first. So I'm going to go and turn symmetry on and go over to scrape. And I just want to knock off the hard edge. Let me turn the rings off because I think that's throwing off the pen here. Yeah, it was much better without the rings in the way. And then I can just smooth this down. Let's make our smoothing brush a little bit bigger, a little more aggressive. And this is what I'm talking about with smooth. It is adding a little material to the inside of the finger, which will get sanded off when they sand out the growth lines. But smooth should never add to this surface. It should only be taking away from the surfaces, but in this corner it's different. It should add material there. All right, let's put our rings merge with shank. And then I want to switch over to my fill brush. Oh, doggone it. I did not mirror the gems over. So I'm not going to be able to, well, there's a way to do it in 3D Coat. I never do it in 3D Coat, so I'm not quite sure what it is, but import some stuff again. Let's give this a good joint. Let's look at it from this side. Let's give that a good joint. All right. Now we're ready for a smooth all. Okay, so these cutters, I've only got cutters on. I don't have any gem cutters. Well, I can use the gems themselves as cutters. I just got to clone them to the other side. So let me change the symmetry for this. Turn off the y-axis so it's just X and say clone with symmetry. There we go. That did it. Okay. So now I can take these, which is just that half, select, subtract from shank. These, subtract from shank. And now I've got registration marks for the setter, so he knows where to put the stones. Okay. Smooth all. Picture time. Oop. There's the thumbnail for the job. And smooth the sprue. Voxel. Decimate this 90. Double check that we have enough triangles. We got big ones and a flat. Little ones where things round over. That's good. Sprue. Decimate. Take that up to 99%. And we are done. So this is ready to print. So if you guys will excuse me, I'm going to save this real quick. Customer name dot channel set diamond band dot stl. Okay, so I am going to, I've got 2 flasks. I don't have any other 18 karat white jobs, obviously. But I've got all my 18 yellow jobs done and 18 white. That's 2 flasks. That's enough for a cast. I'm going to go ahead and get the printer going and walk the dog and make a coffee. So probably going to be gone for about an hour doing all of that. And then I'll come back and so my original plan was to do all 6 of those and get those printing today, but ran out of time because I'm an optimist. I always think something's going to take less time than it does. And I've got what I had to have done, the 18 yellow job, and enough to fill out 2 more flasks. The other flasks are customer metal and white gold for those other 5 jobs. They go into one of those 2 flasks. So actually 4 jobs. There's 2 white and 2. Anyways, I'm going to go away for an hour and then I'll come back and I'll do as much as I can on those other 4 jobs as I'm casting this stuff. And then hopefully I'll have those all ready to go in the oven tomorrow night. I hate having to cast 2 days in a row, but I've got 4 different metal types, and I really only like to have 2 flasks in the oven at a time. I don't know if you guys are familiar with my Santa Fe paper on casting resins, but it's really, really important for all the flasks to be dry in that first step. And with 2 flasks, that takes about 4 or 5 hours. With 4 flasks, it'll take upwards of 6. And that's too long to cook resin, even at 350. It's just too long to cook resin at 350. It's going to burn out with ash in it. So I really, really prefer to limit my oven to 2 flasks at a time. And when I've got a 4 flask week, I just have to cast twice. I was going to stretch it. I was going to do 3 at a time, but now that I realize I got 4, I'm just going to break it up into 2 days. So, and if you don't know my Santa Fe paper, just Google Santa Fe Symposium, Eric Paul Norvetz, and it'll come up. You can read the paper online for free. All right. I'll be back. This is going to be a long day. But after this weekend, maybe next weekend, I'll be caught up from having to work the counter during the Tucson show, and the week after the Tucson show when everybody that went to Tucson had COVID. So I spent 2 weeks at the counter, and that's how I got so far behind. I'm working full day Saturdays and Sundays. Okay, back in an hour. Bye, guys.